Hi there, my name is Brandy Derrick. I'm with Legalese Bookkeeping, and I'm making this video to show you how to easily see how much each client has in their trust account. This is very useful if your state requires you to submit a three-way reconciliation, and even if your state doesn't require you to do that, you should always know how much each person has in their trust account. So there's two different methods of doing this. The first one is easier to set up, but it doesn't work well for every single kind of attorney. And then the second method is a little bit more difficult to set up, but it should cover everybody that needs to have the access to this information. And I'm going to assume that you've already watched my first video on how to set up a retainer trust account. You can click on the top button. I'm not sure if it's on the right hand or the left hand side, but you can go ahead and click up there and it'll take you to the first video if you haven't already watched that. So the first method is to set up sub-accounts under the liability account for each customer. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to go over and click on accounting, or actually I'm just going to hover over accounting, and then I'm going to click on chart of accounts, and then I'm going to click on the green new button. And this is going to be an other current liability. The detail type is going to be trust account liabilities. And I'm going to name this Bob Jones. And then click that it's a sub-account under the trust account liabilities. And save and close. Now when we're here in the chart of accounts, you'll see the trust account liability account. And then you'll see Bob Jones is a sub-client. You can see that he's a sub-client because it's tabbed over. So now I'm going to go ahead and receive some payments, or rather one payment from Bob Jones for a retainer. So I'm going to click on the quick create button up here. It's the circle with the plus sign. And then I'm going to click on bank deposit. And I'm going to make sure that I'm in the trust account and select the correct date. And received from is going to be Bob Jones. And then under account, I'm going to start typing in Bob Jones again. And it's going to automatically pull up the trust account liability : Bob Jones account, which means that Bob Jones is a sub-account of the trust account liabilities, which is correct. We're going to receive $5,000 from him. So then I'm going to click save and close. And now I'm going to show you where this is going to be, or how this appears on the statements. We're going to click on reports and then click balance sheet. And here you'll see in the bank account, there's $5,000. And if you go down, you scroll down to where you get to the trust account liabilities, you'll see that Bob Jones has $5,000 in his account. So like I said, this method is really easy, but it doesn't work for everyone. And there's three cases where it won't work. One is if your state won't allow you to put people's names on the balance sheet for privacy reasons. So check with your state to see if you're allowed to do this method. The second way this won't work for is if you have a ton of clients. I mean, if you have like 1,000 clients or something, you do not want to see 1,000 names listed here on the balance sheet. That is not going to be effective for filing your taxes at the end of the year. Your CPA is not going to like it. It's just going to make this report ugly. Your bookkeeper will not like it. It's just, if you have a lot of clients, this method is not going to work. And the third thing is, if you use QuickBooks Online for invoicing for retainers, this method is not going to be the best method either. So I'll show you why this is a problem. I'm going to go ahead and click on the quick create button, which is the circle with the plus sign, and then click on invoice. And I want to invoice Bob Jones for another $5,000 for the retainer. So when you first set up Bob Jones, you're going to need to make a product or a service, and you're going to need to make one specific to him. So I'm going to name it retainer Bob Jones, and then select add and select service. The name automatically fills in here, but you need to select the income account that it's going to go into. And in this case, it's going to go into the Bob Jones sub account. So it's going to go into trust account liabilities : Bob Jones. Save and close. So if you have a lot of clients that you're invoicing in here, you are going to need to make a specific retainer for every single client. Again, if you don't have a lot of clients, this isn't that big of a deal. But if you are invoicing for retainers through QuickBooks Online, this will become cumbersome. So I'm going to go ahead and put in that we have $5,000, and I'm going to say that it's not taxable. So I'm going to uncheck that tax mark, and then I'm going to click on Save, and then I'm going to click Receive Payment. So we're going to say Bob Jones on this day, and we deposited it to undeposited funds. Received $5,000. We're going to apply it to this invoice. $5,000 will get applied to that invoice, and save and close. And then now I'm going to click on the circle with the plus sign, click Bank Deposit, and deposit this money. So Bob Jones, on today's date, into the trust account, he deposited that money. Click Save and Close. Now you'll see that our trust bank account has $10,000 in it. And down here under Trust Account Liabilities, Bob Jones shows $10,000. If you're using this method, you want to make sure that the total trust account liabilities of $10,000 always matches the amount of $10,000 in the bank account. That's your way of doing a three-way reconciliation. But like I said, this can become a little bit cumbersome. So the second method takes a little bit more to get set up, and it requires you to do a little bit more work throughout your time using QuickBooks Online. But this method will work for every single different type of attorney, so it may be the better option for you. The first thing that you need to do is click up on the gear icon on the top right. I don't know my right from my left. I always have to look at my hands. And then we're going to click on Account and Settings and click on Expenses. And because this is the sample company that QuickBooks Online provides, everything is already turned on. But when you start using QuickBooks Online, the track expenses by items and customers will not be turned on, and you need to turn it on. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to click over here on the pencil icon and then check mark the track expenses and items by customer, and then click Save, and then click Done. Now, every single transaction that you enter into QuickBooks, it's going to ask you what customer that's for. I'm going to click on Back to Report List, or you can click on Reports on the left-hand side. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a custom report. The first thing you want to do is we're going to click up here on the Enter Report Name and start typing in transaction detail by account. And we want to customize this. So we're going to click up here on the Customize button. And we want to run this report for all dates. On the accounting method, we want this to be the cash method. Then under rows and columns, we're going to group by customer. And then under filter, I'm going to check mark the distribution account, and I'm going to change this to say trust account liabilities. And under cleared, I'm going to put a check mark. I'm going to say uncleared. And I'll explain why I do that here in just a minute. And then click Run Report. And so you'll see Bob Jones has deposited two $5,000 payments for a total of $10,000. The last thing that I'm going to edit is I'm going to click on this pencil icon next to the name. Instead of saying transaction detail by account, which really doesn't make sense to anyone that this report is for, I'm going to change it to be trust ledger. And then I'm going to click on the green Save Customization in the top right hand side. And it will automatically fill in the name that we made here, and then click Save. And now when I go back to the report list by clicking on the blue button and click on Customize Reports, you'll see the Trust Ledger here. And if you click on the name, it'll pull up the report. So great. Now you have this report, and it shows by customer how much they have in the trust account. So now Bob Jones is done. He may or may not be a client in the future, but we don't need him. This matter is closed. We don't need him to show up on this report anymore. The way that we're going to get them so they don't show up on this report is we're going to reconcile the trust account liability account. So the way that you do that is you're going to click up here on the gear icon in the top right, and then click Reconcile under Tools. And the account here, you want to select your trust account liability account. And in this case, the ending balance is 0. We're going to say that, we're reconciling this as the last day of whatever period you're reconciling it, and then start reconciling. What we want to do is all of the transactions that are for Bob Jones, we no longer want to show up on the report. And in this case, all 3 transactions are for Bob Jones. However, like I said, if you have thousands of clients, they might not all be for Bob Jones. So the easy way to select all the transactions is you can click up here on this circle as the column header circle, and then click yes, select all. And now all of the transactions have been selected. And from here you can choose to click on the green Finish Now button, which will completely reconcile these things, or you can click Save for Later. Now when I go back to Reports and I look at the trust ledger, it'll say this report does not contain any data because it's only showing me uncleared transactions. So now I've shown you 2 different ways to easily see how much each client has in their trust account. The first method is the easier, simpler method to implement. However, it may not work for everyone. The second method is a little bit more difficult to get set up, but for most attorneys, it'll work really easily. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me in the box below. It should have my email address. I hope I've answered all of your questions, and if I have, please leave me a comment and let me know that you liked this video. Thanks!